and you're welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, here we're trying to study the Bible. I'm just bringing up my personal Bible study online, that's all. So I challenged myself to do the Bible through cover to cover. I've done it before, it was so impactful. And I imagine that next year, another time, I'd probably gain more. Something else was so transformational. So I decided to do that and share it with an audience. Okay, so you're welcome if you're joining me. I've had people join me. Today is actually day 199. Today is day 199, and every single day we look at this particular Bible reading guide written by my church. Pastor Ina and Sarah Mako. Ina is going to be with the Lord. Pastor Sarah is the head of the Family Ministries International. So this is the structured guide that we're using. In it, we do an Old Testament, a New Testament, a Psalm, and a Proverb. All right. That said, some people say that's a bit too much for them. They don't want to, just want to read one scripture, one chapter, two chapters a day, and they're done. That's fine. They have a 1 year plan. They have more than a 1 year plan, and you can find anyone out there that suits you. The idea is just go read the Bible. So why am I doing this? Because I'm curious. I want to get to know God more. I'm not a pastor. I just love God. I have a full on career outside of what I do here, what I'm doing here, but I just want to share my faith with an audience, and then of course encourage people who are like me, who are curious, to do the research themselves. Go read the Bible yourself and know what's going on in there. Know what the stories are. Draw your own conclusion. There are so many. Do you know that 2 days ago I read the Bible and I saw something that Solomon did for King David did for his son, and I even accused, there's been a over the week there was a conversation around nepo babies, and I was like, Solomon was a complete nepo baby. And I was like, I'm happy because I don't even have any shame in raising my kids to be a nepo baby. I'm going to set the stage. David did a lot. So, like, there's so many things you can draw for your own life just by reading it, okay? You may not agree with my interpretation. That's fine. You go check it out yourself. That's your biz. This is my biz. I'm reading it. I'm sharing it. You're welcome to join me. The thing is, if you join me this entire year, you would have covered the Bible from cover to cover. Yes. I've missed a couple of days, but I will catch up. Yes, I will find time and catch up with all the episodes that I missed, and you will not tell that I didn't do those episodes. Maybe except where they are placed on the calendar. Anyway, so let's quickly get to it. Um, a lot of organization has been going on. So today we're looking at First Chronicles 26 and 27. We're looking at Romans chapters 4. We're looking at Proverbs 19:17. So let me just quickly do Proverbs because it's such a simple one scripture and we're done. 19:17. So verses 17 says, He who has pity on the poor lends to the Lord, and he will pay back when he has given. They talk about Proverbs and Psalms. Every time I read, I feel like I need to say something, but that's for another day, not for today. So Chronicles 26. If you recall, from 2 days ago, David had already started putting things in place to make it easy, setting the structures up for his son to be a great king. All right, so Chronicles, they started with the priests, musicians, and gatekeepers. Today we're talking about accountants, military, counselors, supply office, and all of that. Yeah, so people don't know that the Bible had all these structures. So basically, security guards were assigned their duty posts by families, and they were put at the north, east, west, and the south gates. There was something here they wrote Shalikath Gate. I don't know what that meant. 6 days. Six were put on the six people every day were put on the east gate, 4 people every day on the north and south gates, 2 people at the storehouses, 4 people at the west gate on the road, and 2 were allowed to roam the courts, security men. All right, so accountants, Levites were put in charge of the finances. They were Moses' direct descendants, the people who were descendants of Moses' direct descendants. Valuables consecrated by David the king, including things dedicated by Samuel. They had the people put in charge of them. Special affairs duties, 1,700 men were put as judges and officials. In David's 40th year, the year that he eventually passed on, the Hebron family tree was researched and drawn, and outstanding men were extracted. A guy called Jeriah was superbly outstanding, and 217,000 from his extended family were found to be leading admin and worship matters east of the Jordan. I think that's over several years, 217,000 of his descendants. That must have been like, Jeriah must have been like when they first came out of Egypt, because it can't be in David's time. Anyway, they probably wanted to honor that man. Hi. Hi, big balls. Big balls. Okay, I'm just going to ignore that. Your name is Toy. Thank you for joining me, Toy. Yeah. Um. So the military. We've talked about that. That must have been a man who was really great, and so in honor of, and then they noticed that his descendants were really have really also shown that level of greatness and impact. Yes, so they were put in charge of the money, 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 in a rich man's world. Did you notice that they didn't just put anybody in? They put it in Moses' line. You have to demonstrate some level of accountability, and otherwise you'll be sus. Anyway, military. 24,000 people per division per month. Perez, Dodai, Benik, Asael, Shalmuth, Ira, Heles, Sibekai, Abieza, Maharai, Benaniah, and Hilda were the people put in charge of the military divisions. Administration was according to tribe. David couldn't keep count because God had promised him numerous population like the sky. So when Joab, do you remember that time when David told Joab to count? That was like 2-3 episodes ago. When David told Joab to count, God was displeased with him. Maybe God saw the intent of David's heart and felt the reason why you're counting is to be proud, not because you really want to find out. Because they are constantly counting in Israel. They're constantly taking count, keeping figures. So why was that an issue? Anyway, it's written here that Joab couldn't finish what he started because God was upset with him. The records were never taken. The records were never taken for the full military number. But when I read it in the main scripture, it said 1,100 from the other parts of Israel. But he didn't count Benjamin. He didn't count the Levites. He didn't count Benjamin. He didn't count the Levites. So they didn't get the full number. All right, supply office. Supply office was responsible for David's property. So David was rich. Farm workers, vineyards, wine vats, sycamore fig trees, olive trees, herds, camels, donkeys, and flocks. So different businesses, different things, different arms of government. And there were people who were put in charge of the supply office to manage these places and give David his basic supply for his household and stuff. They even took time when Solomon's time came to list how many things were eaten every single day. Like, they were very wealthy. Okay. Yes, counselors. As we round, Jonathan, David's uncle, was a counselor. Jehiel raised David's sons. So the training for the rich kids and the kids in royalty are different from the training from the peasants and the regular people. I want to raise my kids like king. I'm sorry whether you think I'm royalty. I'm actually royalty from where I come from, but we live like regular contemporary people in Nigeria, right? But special teachers were kept to raise the king's sons because there were probably issues they would deal with that the ordinary person wouldn't. What does that tell you? There's so much intentionality around the things of God. Yet, we in Nigeria, my country, we're so careless. We're so careless. We just say, oh, God will help us. We complain about our government. Can you step up to do something? No, I don't want to. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to be seen as a bad person. I don't want to be selected or fingered as someone who is an opposition, who doesn't fight, who doesn't that fear that makes you protect and preserve yourself, but you complain every day about the things getting done. Yes. So the king's sons are trained to enter trouble. They are trained to think like leaders. They are trained, and a guy called Jonathan, David's uncle, and Jael, they raised the king's sons. Anyway, Ahithophel and David's counselor and coach. Ahithophel was David's counselor and coach. So it's important to have somebody who offers you counsel, like a mentor. So what I'm taking from here is that you should have a mentor. Either somebody spiritually, somebody physically, maybe in your career, somebody, you can even have more than one mentor, really. Yeah. Ahithophel counsel They said Ahithophel's counsel was like God spoke. Every time they met Ahithophel, what should we do about the Philistines? When Ahithophel processed the information, they were like, gosh, you're so deep, you're so smart. Anyway, you're like God, there was a falling out. If you go back some episodes, you see. Hushai, David's friend. Hushai was David's friend, possibly another wise guy. They didn't tell us what Hushai really did, but he was a friend of the king, and they thought it worthy to list it here. Ethiopia was later replaced by Jehoiada and Abiathar. That was because Ahithophel decided to side with David's son to overthrow David. Like, who does that? He didn't get the memo. Joab was commander of the army. So that ends our Old Testament reading for today, just giving you a breakdown. Our New Testament, Romans 4, Paul continues to wrestle with Jews intellectually. Paul is so intellectual, really. Every time I read this, I have to read more than one version of scripture because I find the New King James sometimes too, it's difficult to read it all. So I go to the New Living Translation, I go to the Message Bible, I go to the NIV, the New International Version, just to get the gist of everything there. So this is my summary, and then we'll be done for today. Give me another 5 minutes. If you get what God gives you because you did everything right, then personal trust wouldn't come in. It will be like a contract. But what God is offering us isn't a contract. It's not a contract. It's a promise. God's promise. It's a promise, God's promise. And you can't break it. If somebody says, I promise to do this for you, and then you are breaking your own side, well, it's not a contract. We didn't sign anything. So I won't stop doing what I'm doing. So you can't break it. It's a fulfillment. This fulfillment, it depends entirely on trusting God and His way. And so I have entered into that contract. I'm trying to get my kids to enter into that contract, like show them, teach them, help them see, so that they can come to their own personal faith. My faith has carried them this long, but now I want them to begin to develop faith. They ask questions about God, why, and then begin to draw their own God and begin to activate that belief that I talked about yesterday. Yeah. All right. So Abraham got God's attention when he was still a nobody because he dared to trust God, to do what only God would do, make something out of nothing. Raise the dead to life. So that point was said there because a certain level of Abraham entered a new relationship with God after that attempt to sacrifice Isaac. And the fact that even though he hadn't had a child for 20 something years, when God said, sacrifice your child, he didn't question, he went to attempt to sacrifice. So God said, you won't hold back this boy from me. You are like, I have settled your matter. I will pick you and your generation. You're the ones I will use as the priests in this land. Abraham didn't do that because he Abraham entered into that because he believed God. Like I told you yesterday, belief is a complete key. It just activates something completely. So Abraham was still a nobody at that point in God's eyes, even after holding on for 25 years. My God. So are you there struggling with whether or not you are in faith? Are you falling by the wayside? Why is God not answering I'm an architect and I have some big projects coming up. I'm believing God that the projects some contracts. And I'm believing God for the contracts to come through. And I want to believe God still said Abraham. It was after Abraham made that attempt at sacrifice that God felt, okay, you have not gotten my attention. Let this matter was settled. At that time he was still referred to as a nobody. So this faith I'm having and gyrating here, I'm feeling like, well, you can see my faith. You can see my faith. I guess if I were ready to weigh things, it has not come to like Abraham's level. Anyway, Abraham didn't focus on his impotence when God said you'll have a child. He didn't even focus on Sarah's closed womb because Sarah was over childbearing age. He didn't even tiptoe around the promise of God cautiously. Like he talked about it robustly in front of everybody. So Abraham thought, we're going to have that son God promised us. Well, I don't know, but it's coming. He didn't act like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm sensitive. Don't be asking me questions about children. And don't tell me to go anywhere where they're having children's parties. I'm sensitive to this matter. He didn't tiptoe around it cautiously, trying to act like, well, it's not like I don't believe God, though. But God, didn't you promise? Why are you treating me like this? He just goes around saying, I am going to get what God promised me. He didn't tiptoe around the promise made, asking cautious questions. He accepted the promise, same came up strong, no shaking, unshaken, and was declared righteous by God for that belief 25 years in. So, two tests Abraham passed. Three, first, leave your home. Second, believe me over that matter of your son. Third, bring that son to me. Bring that son to me. Well, Abraham did all that, but he still didn't feel that, oh, it's because I did, that's why I'm righteous with God. He just felt, God, you've chosen me. I don't know why. Do whatever you want with me. Very powerful. So I wrote here that I'm applying for a contract. I missed a few pre-qualification documents. Yet I'm going to just act like Abraham and act like this has nothing to do with what. And if I get it, I'll definitely tell you guys. Today is episode 199. So I'll try and keep that in mind. Episode 199. I'll come back and say on episode 199 I talked about this and now I have gotten it. I'm not going to say, oh, because I made all this, I did everything right. So this is a matter of me trusting, having faith and trusting God that what He promised me He'll do. Okay? All right. I don't care. The same thing can be said of us when we embrace God and believe what Paul is teaching us here. Jesus' sacrifice sets us right with God. That settles it. In Nigerian parlance, we say, bam, take it to the bank. And so that ends our lessons for today, our Bible reading for today. Thank you all for joining me. I see you guys there, but some of you are not saying anything. So make sure you join me tomorrow. Share this with someone who needs. Subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification button so that you know when I go live next time. This has been episode 199. I'll see you tomorrow.